Hello everyone and welcome back to another Peppa Pig video. Before we begin, I would like to thank T-Pose Grievous, Roblox Peppa, and Happy Days for subscribing. If you would like to be featured in my next video, all you have to do is subscribe and leave a comment about it. Now let's begin. Today's video is a Peppa Pig episode tier list. For those who don't know how these work, you basically rank your favorite of a certain thing by favorite to least favorite or best to worst, and the best is S in this list, for example, and the worst is D. So, let's start. Okay, so the first episode is Not Very Well. So what happens here is Peppa gets sick, her friends come over, and then she's not sick. The main problem with this episode is, as Peppa says in it herself,
Oh, but it's so boring.
Another problem is, just what disease is this? I mean, this just isn't a disease. There's no disease where you have pink spots on your face for about 30 minutes after you eat some medicine and then they just go away. That just isn't a disease. The closest thing you can think of is chickenpox, and that certainly doesn't resolve itself within the hour. Another point is, why did Dr. Brown Bear have to come check up on her after she takes the medicine? The only thing he does is look at her and see there's no spots. He could just tell her parents to look at her and see if there's any spots or not. So besides that, the episode is just very boring as well. So second of all is Peppa's new shoes. This is also a very boring episode. It also doesn't make sense in a lot of ways, including how they made the episode. So what happens here is Peppa loses her shoes, and her mom says, well, they were old shoes anyways, let's just buy you new ones. Okay? So they never talk about how she lost her shoes. She just doesn't have shoes one day. And they don't go through this list of her trying on all these different shoes, and then they get to the red shoes that they like best, which is how these kids shows usually do it. That's how they do it in George's New Clothes. Instead, she just goes, immediately gets the red shoes, and then they're just never seen ever again. Now, the school play is probably one of the best Peppa Pig episodes. It's entertaining, it has an obvious storyline. I like the fact that when Rebecca Rabbit is practicing her lines, it's pretty funny when her mother flips back all the pages to see right at the end when she says her one line, and how she practices so hard just for this one line. So overall, it's a pretty entertaining episode, and pretty classic in the first season. Next one is Tidying Up. I'm going to put Tidying Up in C tier just because it has, I guess, a good message and, to tidy up. And the part at the end where they immediately make the room messy again, that's pretty funny for this kind of show. But overall, it's a pretty boring episode. They have the room, it's messy, and they clean it. So that's about it. Competition. I like this episode pretty good. It's a pretty good episode. It's pretty interesting how Dr. Hamster, before she's quickly thwarted, was planning to only give the reward to her own pet. Just a quick recap for those who are unfamiliar. In the pet competition episode, they have a pet competition. At school, I know, you probably couldn't have guessed. So they have a pet competition. Peppa, George, and Rebecca Rabbit, and anyone who has a pet, they're all welcome to bring their pet into the pet competition. So Pedro brings his stick insect, which is pretty funny that he has a stick insect. Edmund Elephant brings his gecko, and obviously the pigs bring their fish. And then the vet, Dr. Hamster, comes to look at all the pets and then decide who wins the competition. And so she ends up just planning to give the reward to her own pet, her pet tortoise. Before obviously there was enough outrage that she gives everyone a reward. But she was obviously planning just to let her own. The next episode is Work and Play. I was originally planning to put this on B or C tier, but then when I went and watched it again, this was actually a very entertaining episode, and also very interesting, and it had a few insights that can be expounded upon in further theories, and just basic information that's pretty useful. For example, when Peppa and Daddy Pig come home from playgroup/work, you can see on the clock in the house that it's 4 o'clock, so now we know when their work/school gets off. So that's pretty interesting, basic information. Also, the part at the beginning when Daddy Pig thought it was Saturday and it was actually Thursday, that was pretty entertaining. Their shopkeeping at the playgroup was pretty funny. You can see exactly how low Pedro's self-esteem is by the fact that Danny Dog goes, gets something, they say it's $100, he's like, no problem, I can pay that. He leaves. Pedro comes, they say it's 1 penny, and he, forgetting the fact that it's all imaginary, acts as though it's real and says, I haven't got enough money. But he buys it on credit, so it's all good. Also, when Mummy Sheep is driving them to school, as we know, Mummy Sheep is, from all appearances, a single mother. So you'd expect that on Thursday at around, let's say, 8 a.m. when this is happening, probably around there is a reasonable estimate, she ought to be at work. But she's not, she's just going to the gym. How is this family making any money? Perhaps Daddy Sheep died and left plentiful life insurance, although that's obviously just speculation. But it does raise some questions about the family's financial situation. I'm going to put this next episode, the Pen Pal, in tier, let me think, either A or B. I'm going to go with B. It's overall a pretty entertaining episode. Daddy Pig pretending he can speak French and then obviously not being able to speak French is pretty entertaining. Peppa talking on the phone to Delphine, and then when they hang up, she asks what she said, and she said she spoke French. That was pretty entertaining. I mean, it's not like, rolling on the ground, but, it's funny for Peppa Pig. And an interesting thing you can see is the favoritism for Peppa, and obviously we can expound this to pigs generally, by the education system, i.e. Madame Gazelle in this example. What I mean by this is you can see all of the children in Peppa Pig jumping up and down, wanting a pen pal as soon as she asks who wants a pen pal. And then Peppa says, after Madame Gazelle explains what a pen pal is, can I have a pen pal? And she says yes and just gives it to her, even though she was jumping up and down with all the other students who also wanted a pen pal. The only difference is Peppa just stood up and asked what a pen pal is. The next episode we're going to look at is pretty similar. It is Delphine Donkey. So, after Peppa has been pen pals with Delphine for a while, Delphine comes to stay for a day at Peppa's house. I'm also going to put this at B tier, because it's not anything spectacular, but it does have some funny moments at the beginning. It's just a repeat of the jokes in the first episode about Delphine, where Daddy Pig doesn't know French. And then when Delphine comes, you can see this giant bag she's brought. And when asked about it, her dad says, it's just a bunch of stuff that they don't have in England, such as bread and tomato and water. So this is obviously a wink at the rivalry between France and English people. So that was pretty funny. And then when they arrive at the house, he asks where they want to put the bag, and Peppa immediately just tells him to put it at the very top of the house, which is, again, a pretty entertaining part. There's obviously the most obvious joke in this episode was when Delphine humbly asks Daddy Pig for some help speaking English, and then asks a very complicated question that Daddy Pig doesn't understand the answer to. But I think the funniest part of this was when they go to her playgroup. So she comes to this class to learn English, and they're about to sing her songs to learn better English. And the song is literally just
with a ping and a pong and a bing. Bong, bing, boo. Bing, bong, bing. Bing, bong, bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, boo. Bing, bong, bing. Bing, bong, bing, bing, boo.
Alright, so that's all for this episode. You can expect a part 2 pretty shortly, especially if you all enjoy this. Don't worry, I'm not moving away from doing theories. I'll still be doing those regularly. But I'd say this was pretty fun to record, and if you enjoyed this, I'll create more videos like this. So, besides that, if you liked it, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.